Hello there, thanks for visiting my YouTube channel. Um, a quick look at the back of your camera is going to show you some of the settings that you have got in relation to white balance, and tonight we're going to have a little look at them. So first off, let's go to the back of the camera.
Okay, one of the things you're going to be faced with making a decision on if you're shooting in manual is white balance. And on the Canon camera, button on top of the screen, you press. You can do it in a couple of ways. You can use this paddle here, this selector here. This is the 5D Mark III I'm demonstrating on. And get yourself along to this here. And generally when you first get it, you're going to be looking at that. When you take it out of the box, you're going to be looking at automatic white balance. I'll just quickly run through what the options are. You've got automatic white balance, you've got daylight, shade, cloudy, tungsten, white fluorescent light, flash, custom, or K. And we'll go to the computer in a moment and I'll explain what some of these settings are, how they affect the image you've got, or how the image how it's going to affect the image you take, rather.
Okay, now we're back at the computer. I had a little crash with my computer there, but actually the computer didn't crash. It was my wife's hair straighteners fused and everything went black. So we're back up and running now, which is good. The back of the camera settings that you just seen, it showed you, I think it was automatic white balance, and then there was on the back of the Canon there's also daylight and shade. I'm just going to turn this off in case it records because I'm getting lots of messages on Facebook. Yeah, so you get automatic white balance, cloudy. Is this little list here I've took from the Canon's website, but if you go into Canon UK and or Europe and you have a look for their explanation of what white balance is, it gives you these here. I have a Canon 5D Mark II and 5D Mark III, and both of them also include a daylight setting and a shade setting in addition to all this here. So yesterday I went out and took a few images. I took one image at each setting, and we'll kind of have a wee look at them in a wee minute. And what these settings are, and I'm just going to go with Canon's list here. I'll forget the ones I've got just now. But what these are here, it's when you take a picture. Let's have a look at the Kelvin scale first. The Kelvin scale is a measurement of the light that emits around about us. Anytime there's light, it's got a value on the Kelvin scale, and you can see here a candle flame has got a 1800 value on the Kelvin scale, and it's known as 1800K or 1000K or 10,000K. And the K stands for Kelvin. Kelvin was a physicist. He invented the scale. If you ever get down to 0 Kelvin, absolute zero, you will be in temperature somewhere in the region of minus 273 degrees Celsius. That's absolute zero. And I don't think there's anyone going to go taking photos in anywhere that's that cold anytime soon. But at the other end of the scale, 10,000K, supposed to be top of the scale, but you know there are. Wikipedia tells you it's from 0 to 10,000. It actually goes up a lot further than that. Especially if you look at camera raw, etc. They've got Kelvin scales going up to 36,000, 40,000, etc. But anyway, that's what it is. So if you take a picture, like say here on a cloudy setting on your camera, Canon will tell you that cloudy, it should represent a cloudy or hazy situation outside, hazy scene, cloudy, in daytime I'm imagining, not night, and it will apply a, a preset, a colour cast, which is supposed to represent 6000K or 6000 Kelvin. And if we look here, 6000 Kelvin, that is saying when you're seen, if you were happen to be outside during the day and the sky was this kind of, it's a nice sunny day, but the sky's not high in the sky, it's kind of, well, it's high in the sky in terms of midday, it's heading toward the midday sun, but it's not quite midday yet. And what happens on the Kelvin, what your camera does is try, because this will give a kind of a certain when the sun or just the general the sun shines, it's hitting clouds, but there's still illumination coming from the sun, and it causes a colour cast, and your camera tries to counter that and correct that, and it will throw another colour in it, and it's kind of over the top of your image to kind of balance that out. The best one to show you it with really is the tungsten. Tungsten indoor light generally, you can't have it outdoors obviously, but light bulb type light which emits a kind of yellow hue, a yellow glow to everything that is touched. I'm actually got sitting right beside a light bulb, not beside a light bulb with a lamp, but it'll be Kelvin light sorry, tungsten light that I'm in just now. And so if you take a picture in tungsten light, which is round about here, the light bulb saying it's give you this kind of yellowy hue over everything. Well, your camera will try and counter that by putting a blue hue over the yellow hue, if you like. So it neutralises it, and it balances it out basically. So if I have a look at this photos that I took yesterday, this one here is there is no tungsten lights there. This is just normal lights. It's actually daytime that, but it's a tungsten setting on the back of the camera, the light bulb icon on the back of the camera. And if you take a photo with the tungsten setting and there is no tungsten light, there is no yellow emitting light available, then this is what it will do. It's this blue hue that is applied over all your kind of images, and it's taken from somewhere around about here. I just made these graphics up, so they're probably not totally 100% representative of real life, but you know, you could draw a straight line across here. It's taking a blue and putting it over the top of that, and that should give you a kind of normal image. If you have a look at this one here, this was taken now. It's going to open. It's going to open in Photoshop. No, I want to open in Photoshop. Open in the camera raw. That's it. This here was taken in tungsten light. The actual tungsten temperature was 3250, round about that. I've cooled it down a little bit, and that's pretty much the tungsten light. And in the UK, if you have one of these remote controls, forget the bits of stuff on it, it's a kitchen table remote control, but if you have one of these remote controls, you'll see that is a pretty good indication of the colour. And that was done totally by accident, because I take the tungsten picture outside and I'd walked inside and accidentally hit the shutter, and that's what we got. So it just, I mean, the light is almost directly above it. It's little spotlights in the ceiling there. So that's what happens with tungsten light. If you're in a tungsten light situation, this blue cast will be cast over the top of your image, and it will get rid of all the yellowness that has been spat out from your artificial lighting in the house. So if you look at the rest of the lights here, you have Kelvin. Now Kelvin's a user-defined setting on your camera. If you go to the back of your camera, scroll along to where we've seen all these presets, and go to one marked K, you will set that yourself. Now, midday normal daylight, midday sun is given a value of 5500 Kelvin. So if you decided you were going to shoot only using Kelvin. I don't actually know anyone who shoots only using Kelvin. Um, but there will be people who do that. Just not me. If you do shoot using only Kelvin, a good ballpark place to start is the kind of five, so anywhere between the 5 and 6. As you get into the evening time, you'll kind of drop the Kale, drop it down a little bit. But yeah, that's it. So bear in mind when you've got the cloudy setting on, it's going to be looking at on this scale. It's going to try and correct and add a little bit of a cast because it thinks the sun is sitting just behind these hazy clouds that are above your head. If we have a look at that one here, um, no, this is automatic one. That's automatic. See, then we have on Canon two extras. We have a daytime setting. So the automatic was more realistic to what I've seen than the daytime setting, that's for sure. The shade setting, although we weren't in shade, is pretty close to that. I think probably shade is better. Now this is a cloudy setting now. This one here is cloudy. That's shade, cloudy, shade. And there's a definite difference in the colour if you look up here. Definite difference. Now if we go from cloudy to tungsten, tungsten and fluorescent are both given this blue hue. And this is a setting I tend to have my camera on always as my default. I very rarely take it off there unless I'm in a really heavily lit tungsten place and I've got no flash with me. I'll keep it on flash even when I have no flash on the camera because I think it's a fairly realistic view of what I seen yesterday, and each and every time I use it. I pretty much leave that as my default. Some people say leave cloudy as your default. Let's see what's the difference between the cloudy one. There's not a great deal in that, is there? I think the cloudy one, there's just a touch more orange in that than what I kind of think should be. This one here was a custom setting, and it was set using a bit A4 paper, and I had the tungsten still set as my choice of preset. Took a picture of this A4 piece of paper and loaded it into the cameras and did a custom white balance. So that white balance there is derived from there, and I'll do a video how to show you how to do that. This one here was Kelvin, and this was set at 5500. Now let's flash is my preferred one. Cloud is for a lot of people you'll use that one. Cloudy. Tungsten and fluorescent when you're in the appropriate circumstance. That's flash without a flash, and this is a custom one in this here. So let's have a quick look at these. So that's automatic, that's cloudy, that's flash without a flash, which is I think that's a more properly represent what I see with my naked eye. I think that is the nearest match to it. This is a custom white balance, and it's not a bad effort either. There's a bit more colour certainly in here. The greens are a bit brighter in the kind of background. They're a bit more saturated. I was a little bit closer, so that's maybe giving a slight effect as to what kind of colour the camera lens is picking up. But this custom, a lot of people buy a grey card and only ever use a grey card to set their white balance, which is absolutely fine. If you've not got a grey card, if you've got a bit of paper, an envelope, as long as it's pure white, as long as you can fill your lens with it, you can create a custom white balance from that. So we'll have a little look at that tomorrow. And this was flash with a flash. This one here was a flash without, and this one, that's the flash without, and that's the flash with. without the width. And I was a wee bit close, and it was getting very cold. But this temperatures were in the minuses yesterday. Health and safety, I had to come back and get heat. So this one's a wee bit whiter or whatnot than it should be. And I'm going to take these all into camera raw. Just for a second, we'll see how we can quickly. So if I take this to auto, now this was auto, it's the camera's version of auto, and this is Photoshop's version of auto, and there's no change. This was, forget these two, because this is here is a cloudy. Alright, we have a daylight, so we'll go to daylight with this one. And before we start with 5200, and that puts it at 5.5. Not a great deal of difference, I don't think. Tiny wee bit. You can see a tiny wee bit of colour coming back into the face if we put it up a wee bit. It's definitely a bit more blue on that, but it's not a great deal. So let's go down to this one. The next one we've got is shade. Well, that's shade there, so let's have a quick look at shade. Again, not much different. As shot, that's 6950, and shade is 7500, so it's a little bit warmer. This is a cloudy 6000. 6500. So Photoshop, or Camera Raw rather, is giving a little bit more warmth to all these images than the camera, apart from tungsten, strangely enough. Tungsten's 2850 and as shot is 3250. So either way, it's not very nice unless you're in a tungsten situation. And this one here, the flash one, 6300. If I get flash on that, oh, it cools it quite a bit, doesn't it? It cools it quite a bit. Let's go back to as shot. Definitely a bit more warmth in that colour. Yep, I think we'll take the as shot on that one. And the next one was, the next one was a custom one. As shot, I think better there. The next one, sorry, was Kelvin. If we decide to pick our own Kelvin, so let's I would bump that way up to about there, and I think that's probably more warmer looking again. And the flash one, take the whites are too white in that, and let's take the highlights down, and yeah. So there you have it. I hope that's given you a little bit of an insight into what the settings are. So effectively, any of these settings here, what you're doing is you're affecting the color cast temperature that your camera is going to apply to your images. For me, the default one I use majority of the time is flash, even when I'm not going to use a flash. And the benefit of that is if I do use a flash, I'm already set for it, so the camera knows what adjustment to make for a flash. But without it, it looks pretty close to what my naked eye sees, and so that's what I stick with. But yep, hope this has been of some help to some of you, and thanks for watching.